This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Aaron Maté. As we turn right now to a show we did about a year ago, among our guests was Jacob Appelbaum, our guest today, who's in Berlin, and Laura Poitras. On Sunday, the New York Times Magazine profiled Laura Poitras, the journalist who filmed the Guardian interview with Edward Snowden in Hong Kong, and had a byline on two of the key articles about the ongoing NSA revelations. Snowden first reached out to Laura Poitras before Glenn Greenwald. She's an award-winning filmmaker who's been discussing issues of privacy and state surveillance for years. Last April, Juan Gonzalez and I spoke to Laura and asked her to describe the difficulty she faces with immigration officers here in the United States when she returns to the country.
I've been stopped at the border since 2006, since I started working on this series of films looking at U.S. post 9/11. And so I've actually lost count to how many times I've been detained at the border, but it's I think around 40 times. And
40,
right. And on this particular trip, lately they've been actually sending someone from the Department of Homeland Security to question me in the departing city. So I was questioned in London about what I was doing. I told them I was a journalist and that my work is protected and that I wasn't going to discuss it. And then on this particular occasion, I landed at Newark Airport, and what they do when I'm flying, they do passport control inspection at the gate. So they make everyone who's deplaning show their passport, and so that's how they.
Well, they don't even wait for you to get to immigration.
No, I don't get into immigration. I get the escorted treatment.
So they make everyone show their passport until they get to you,
right?
And then they take you off the
plane. And then
they
take me away.
That's Laura Poitras. What she went on to say is that what infuriated them the most and what they said she couldn't do was take notes on her detention and the questions she was being asked. That was a fascinating hour, which I encourage people to go to at democracynow.org, which was with Laura Poitras, with Jacob Appelbaum, our guest now in Berlin, and William Binney, who is a top NSA analyst who quit, another whistleblower who also the federal authorities moved in on his house, on his wife, his kid, and himself put a gun to him in the shower when he was there. Jacob Appelbaum, you are in Berlin right now, where Laura Poitras is. Are you working together? You also did an interview with Edward Snowden for Der Spiegel about a month ago that was published.
Yeah, that's right. I'm working with Der Spiegel as well as a number of other publications here in Berlin as an investigative journalist, while also continuing my work with the Tor Project. Two hats. It's a little complicated, but that's essentially correct.
And what do you think is most significant about what Edward Snowden has revealed, and also the treatment of him as well as others, including yourself, before and since?
Well, as far as what Snowden has revealed, I think when Ron Wyden suggests that what has been revealed is merely the tip of the iceberg, that suggests something extremely terrifying, and that suggests that what Snowden has revealed is in fact just the tip of the iceberg. And what he's revealed so far is planetary-wide surveillance, without warrants, without due process, without just cause, where most of the legislation is either secret or secretly interpreted, and in a few cases where there may be something that resembles judicial oversight, it's a kangaroo court with no opposition. And the people that are supposed to do oversight in the United States are either corrupted by the process or they simply do not understand it and are unqualified to be involved in that oversight. So for me, when I think of these things, what I see right now is the birth of a generation of, unfortunately, dissidents. When Alan Rusbridger suggests that his journalists must work abroad, that is a terrifying and chilling thought. I mean, there's a reason that the American government was started, and there's a reason that the American Revolution shot the British. But let's be clear, the United Kingdom is a modern, reasonable democracy in many ways. And the idea that you would, as a journalist, need to work abroad is appalling. But this is also true for other journalists working abroad on this, in the sense that Glenn is in Brazil and Laura is in Germany, I'm in Germany. Many people who care about telling these stories are honestly afraid of illegal action or supposedly legal action that could result in devastating and horrible outcomes merely by the fact that the people starting them have a lot to lose. and they're willing to take any action, especially classist action, where you would have to spend your life savings, for example, on legal support. So this to me is the scariest thing, because what Snowden has revealed is in the public interest, and that, to me, suggests that when the public is in fact interested and the press is suppressed, that is terrifying to imagine it as the tip of the iceberg.
Jacob, as we talk about David Miranda, the partner of Glenn Greenwald, can you talk about what happened to your fiancée in your home?
Sure. I tend to not talk much about this because it's not my story, but many people around me, including my partner, have experienced some different kinds of extrajudicial harassment. In her case, it's the case that she woke up with two men prowling outside of her house wearing night vision goggles, watching her sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning for about half an hour. We believe that someone was trying to plant a bug inside of her house, and I think this was intimidation, and I feel like either they're the worst, most bungling FBI or other intelligence agents in Seattle, or perhaps they didn't realize the intimidation would backfire. But this is a kind of state terrorism, and when she attempted to file a police report in Seattle, in fact, the Seattle police laughed her off until we were able to involve the ACLU. And it was only when the ACLU was involved would they even take a police report. That was the third time she tried. And of course, attempts to FOIA information about this, do not return information. We're being stonewalled even for processing notes about our FOIAs, so the so-called meta FOIA. And yeah, I mean, it's clear that it's political harassment. And when I've gone through borders similar to what David has experienced, you know, I've actually been literally, for a time, disappeared by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. For example, when we were returning from Serbia, where I was giving a lecture and she was doing an art performance, the U.S. government literally told her that I did not exist after they had taken me, and they would not, yeah, it was horrible for her. They would not let her even see me. They wouldn't acknowledge that they had taken me. They told her she was mistaken, maybe even that she was crazy, and that's a targeted, specific thing where they are allowed to lie to you, where they suggest that you do not have a right to a lawyer, where they will withhold the bathroom, where they'll threaten you with suggestions of rape in prison, and then your loved ones will also be targeted by this in various ways, especially if they're traveling with you. They will experience some serious terror.
Jacob Appelbaum, what is at stake here? Can you explain for people who are confused? I mean, in the United States, overwhelmingly people think that Edward Snowden is a whistleblower, not a traitor. But talk about what is at stake in the United States and around the world right now.
Sure. I think at its core, what is at stake is the ability for a human being to have dignity and for journalists to have integrity with their sources. And from that, I believe that it threatens the whole concept of a free democracy. This is, I think, in a sense being shown in the last 48 hours to the extreme. And I don't mean that as hyperbole, but if everything is under surveillance, how is it that you can have a democracy? How is it that you can organize a political function or have confidentiality with a constituent or with a source or with a friend or with a lover? That's fundamentally an erasure of fundamental things that we have had for quite some time. And planetary surveillance has very serious concerns, not the least of which is economic espionage, and not the least of which I think, for me personally, is about journalistic source protection. I mean, how is it that we will be able to protect our sources if there's no way to securely meet, no way to communicate about having a meeting, no way to actually communicate about basic facts? There's no such thing as on or off the record when, in fact, you don't control the record. And it's not merely a matter of whether or not we have something to hide, because it is not us that will decide whether we have something to hide. It is an analyst somewhere. It is a machine learning algorithm somewhere. And this is the thing that is perhaps the most terrifying. Because people are flagged, then other people are dispatched. Each person plays their role. And more a machine plays that role. A machine that does not understand constitutional protections. It does not understand the Magna Carta or the Bill of Rights. It does not understand humanity. It's a machine. And the humans, they behave like machines too, which is a great fear, that humans will start to behave like machines. And so what is at stake is in fact democracy where we still have it.
Jacob Appelbaum, we want to thank you very much for being with us. Computer security researcher who himself started to be harassed by government authorities after working with WikiLeaks. That does it for